Hey there, this is part 2 of the Abandoned Manor, and in this video I've just started tackling the fine detailing. There was a couple of videos leading up to this with the shutters and the little railings. I'll leave the links for that. But this has got more detailing on mostly the front. I haven't even tackled any of the back yet. I'm undecided what to do with it because I decided to work with a rounded base. I don't know what possessed me to want to do that, but I took that on board because, you know, I just thought it would be something nice to work with, and I'm struggling with the shape, and it also looks like a cake, so I need to try and figure out something later down the track about the base. Any suggestions I would really love. So I hope you get something out of this, and I hope you enjoy the video. I'm just tracing around the house so I can make a template for the base. I'm just going to make a XPS foam base, which will look like the bricks for the cellar underneath. I'm just making a cardboard template after the paper template. I don't know why I did both of those. I suppose you could just draw it up on cardboard, but once that's done I can just pin it down onto my foam, which is already the thickness that I want, or the height for the base of the house that I want, which is 15 millimeters deep. I just had to go and have a quick measure. So that's the base roughly cut out, and I'm just going to draw in some bricks and also use the lid of this knife, and then just, it's the size that I want for the windows, and I just make the impression to save me having to measure, because I know they're all exactly the same size if I use something to make an impression. And then I'm just going to accentuate the windows and draw in more of the bricks. It's the basic brick pattern. I think pretty much everyone knows how to do that. And that's it, drawn up, ready to paint. I gave it a quick stain with a blacky brown kind of wash. I suppose you could just paint it with just about anything that's dark for this step. A lot of people like to seal their foam. I don't do it, but that's just me. I then put a reddish brown, like a brick brown. I don't know why I didn't do the grey for the mortar underneath. I must have had a brain fart and I forgot to do it, but oh well, too late now. I did put a bit of grey on top of it later on. I used some balsa wood to make a little front and back porches, and the little panels for the observatory that I stuck on top of the bottom of the observatory. I don't know, it's in the first video, but this is the piece that goes on top with the little roof, and I used balsa wood because it comes out nicer than the cardboard. For the porches I used a paper template like I do with just about everything, just so I can move it around and make sure it's, you know, the right size, and you waste less cardboard when you use paper anyway, just in case you get it wrong, which is something I do constantly. I reinforced the bottom of this piece of balsa wood because it is so flimsy, and also I had to connect two pieces and I just wanted to stabilise it. This is the back that I had done. I made a rounded shaped porch, and I did it because it fits, but there's something wrong about it and I need to think harder. So this is me making it, and I'm showing you how I did the pattern to make what looks like little, you know, wooden boards. I just drew them up, and then I just made some little marks to make them individual boards. There was no real pattern to this, just kind of neatly, you know, separate them, and then just a few little impressions to make the little, where the nails would be, and then give it a stain, give all of them a stain. I do this with everything, I'm sure a lot of you know that. It's just, I don't know, it's what I do. This is the idea I came up with for windows, because I struggled so hard with this. I spent days attempting to make window frames. I used large popsicle sticks and a Dremel tool, and I painstakingly made them, and they're just too clunky. They don't quite fit, so I decided to draw them. So I just use a paint pen, a cream one. It looks white, but it's cream. And then I push against the inside of the frame. Don't just go trying to draw. Use it to balance. Use your little finger to anchor yourself to it, and then just get that pen in there and draw, and it'll come out evenly on the outside. I couldn't fathom any other way to do this. And if you do make a mistake, get rid of it as quick as you can. To never panic when you make a mistake. Immediately be prepared to get rid of it. And if you can't get rid of it, find a way to hide it, like I do with just about everything. And then I'm going to drop a shadow onto this to make it look three-dimensional. I don't want to just draw it on because it will look strange. So this is how it looks like an actual window frame sitting there. This is not perfect or ideal, but it is way better than those clunky 3D pieces I was going to put on. And now once I've got the shadow drawn with a soft pencil, I'm going to use this very fine tipped pen, and I'm going to draw a line in to make it so there's a sharp edge of a shadow, which will also make it look even more three-dimensional. And just that softer shadow from the pencil looks like it's dissipating, and it's, I don't know, it works. It's just a drawing technique, but you'll find you can do this with so many things. It's a great way to get around very fiddly, tiny problems, especially when you're building on such a small scale. You can see when I'm drawing that line, it really brings out that first shadow that was drawn in. It works quite well. I wouldn't do this on a large building, but the smaller the scale, the more you can get away with this kind of thing. And it looks good. Once those actual windows are in there, it's going to look really nice. I just drew them up with paint pens as well, and slipped them in. I drew a shadow under each one just to make sure they also look three-dimensional. Just drawing things straight up makes things look silly, so you really want to put shadows on everything. I broke some of the windows, gives them more sort of depth and age, and they came out quite good. I like them. I used a bit of super glue on the windows, so when you scratch them and mark them up, it comes out so much finer looking. I accidentally stumbled across this when I was making one. I got it stuck to my fingers over and over and over. I couldn't get it off, and my fingerprints were smothered with glue on the piece of plastic, and then I realised it actually looked quite good. So I started doing this intentionally, because once you start scratching into it, it just gives a really fine, detailed, gritty, and also a dirty look. If you're going for that kind of broken down shack look, but it just works well. And you go cutting holes into it, and it's just, I don't know, it worked for this project. They look good. I really like them. Almost looks like cobwebs a little bit too, which is unusual. I think it's best to just play around with this kind of thing when you're experimenting like I am. I mean, you find things yourself all the time just playing around with this kind of thing and being rough with it, and you know, often treating things with kid gloves makes things too neat and you never discover anything new. Accidents seem to be great teachers, I find. As you can see, once they're glued in, they look great. I strongly suggest you don't try and super glue them in unless you are some sort of super glue god, because once they stick, you can't move them and they're very hard to get placed. That's the observatory, just drawn in with the same windows and a little bit of detailing with a paint pen as well, and the roof, same as it was done in the first video, and it looks pretty good. This is the little porch railing that I made. The link will be below for that. It's really tiny, but it came out really good. It was a very easy little thing to make. And I'm just making some, I don't even know what it's called, it would go under the porch, a bit of fly screen, and some sliced up coffee stirrers, just to make it look like that little bit of fencing. Oh, that little roof fell off 1,000 times. I felt like frisbeeing it across the room. This is how I made it. I do this with everything. I make a paper or cardboard template, and then I'll fit it before I make anything. So that's the front, and I put the F there and measured that with a line, and that's the side. So that way I've got the height and the length of both. So I just drop it down, stick a bit of plastic on top, and then I can glue down my little wooden pieces. I do this with windows and doors and everything. And that's how you make a really quick, easy frame with literally zero measuring. And then I stain them like everything else. Once they're dry, I stick some of this blue paint on. It's the same blue I used on the house because I want most of it to be matching. I use my fingers to make sure it's nice and uneven, and my fingerprints and all that sort of thing will add to it to make it look worn. I'll just go gluing that bit of fly screen on with some super glue. The fly screen I sprayed with some white spray paint, by the way, I forgot to mention. And that looks good, that roof. Oh, I can't wait to glue that roof down. It's forever falling off. That looks nice and tidy with that fitted in there like that. And some little bushes that I've pulled out of a jar. I made these a long time ago. I just used some car washing foam and some different coloured green and yellow paints. I just like to place them around before I ever go gluing anything down, because you want to make sure it looks correct to scale and everything's balanced and set out neatly. This one's got a bit of flocking on it. I was trying to make it look a little more leafy, because the scale I'm working on is so small, things can get very out of control very fast when it comes to dimensions. But this is the stuff I made. If anyone wants a video of me making this kind of thing, I've got no problem for that. If you like, I'll do one. But it's very basic stuff. I break it up and paint it, and I've got a year's supply of little bushes. And my flocking, I just make it out of sawdust, and I run some paint through that and dry it a certain way as well. It comes out great. Very natural greens, which is nice. And that's the one I sprinkled some of the flocking on. It looks quite good, but it's still a little bulky looking. With the flocking, I'm going to put it on the base. I sieved it right down to, this is basically like dust. It's got to be so fine for the size that I want it. If I go putting the regular kind on, it would just look like strange green lumps all over the base. And this is it when I haven't sieved it right down to get the finest dust out of the bottom of it. If I went putting this down like grass like this, as you can see, it just looks strange. Really strange. It doesn't even look like grass, it just looks like, I don't know, lumpy green stuff. So you've got to always be thinking about scale. And then this is my dust, my green dust. And yeah, it looks good. I'm just going to use a really runny water-based glue. Always use water-based glue, otherwise you'll dissolve your foam. And I'm going to sporadically put it around, because I don't want it to look like a beautifully neat lawn. I want it to look, I'm going to probably put quite a bit of static grass and that sort of thing on top of this later on. But for now, I just want it to be an untidy, lawn with bits of dirt and, yeah, definitely unkempt. Even this scale, it's almost too big, but I just get away with using this green dust that I've made from the sawdust. And my little bushes, I'll glue down when I'm happy with each one. You can see that they're exactly the same colour. Well, they're not, but they look exactly the same colour as the grass. It's because of the scale and similar colours. So I need to now separate the bushes from the grass and the ground by darkening and then lightening. So I'm going to darken around the bushes and give them a shadow. Watch when I put the shadow in and watch how it separates it from the ground immediately. It will just pull it away and then the bush will not look like part of the ground anymore. This is really effective for just about everything. I put shadows on everything. I just really enjoy the process of doing it because I just love watching things sort of either become one or they lift and separate from each other, and it's a lovely process. It really assists with the illusion of scale. These are the videos that turn out really lengthy when I'm doing this because I just enjoy watching it as well. This could have been a little darker, this wash that I've used. It's a little too, almost like a milky grey brown, but I could fix that later. And this is just a lime green that I am very, very sparingly putting on. I don't want to go painting the bush green. I want to lift highlights on the outer areas of it, so it'll just bring it up and give it, a little more height and light. It adds to the realism as well. It stops it looking quite so much like a lump of green sponge. You can see the difference where it's lifted it and then pulled away at the base. It looks great. I'm just helping it dissipate away because it's almost a little bit of a line there. I just wet the brush and cleaned it and then started soaking up some of that edge just to blur the lines. And I'm going to make some little tiny flowers. Flowers aren't necessary, but they add little highlights of colour, and they do certain things for the bushes. I don't know, I would avoid using reds and that sort of thing, but white is something that works really well. After I push these in, I just clean the tip of the toothpick and then push the centre of each one down again. It takes some of the paint away because you don't want lumps of paint, but it'll take it away, and then it also leaves a little bit of a centre in it so it looks more like an actual flower. And it does really help separate the bushes from the grass and the house as well. And I'm just going to go all around the areas of dirt in between the grass that look like, these little dead patches, and I'm going to soften the edges of them so they're not just bare brown foam sticking up. I want them to kind of look like the grass is dying off and dissipating as it's dead and coming away. Painting is such a big thing when it comes to making dioramas. I'm going to be putting this brown stain all over this house when I'm done with it, but especially the lower parts and up the sides, and I've also got to put a lot of detailing on here with the little wooden strips. But none of this is darkened in here yet. I'll be pulling the house apart as I've not glued it down because I still have to do quite a lot of work to it, and I won't glue it down until I don't need to move it anymore. But this kind of thing is what will be done in the next video, and it'll really start to give it great depth. And I've got to fix the shape of that base because it looks like a weird cake. But this is it done. Well, the front of it is almost done. There's a lot more to do. But I hope you got something out of this, and I hope to see you next time.